Three, two, one.
We are your towering filmmakers, keeping it real like a roll of film, always looking to develop with you, the listeners, the dreamers, and the stories you tell. Welcome to the TowerCast podcast, the towering podcast for the towering filmmakers of El Paso and the world. How's it going, you guys? This would be episode, what is this, number 2?
Episode number two, season one, of season two.
The prequel. You already know how it goes. We want to welcome all the latest and greatest filmmakers that are joining us today. We have John Eric Castro, the actor, Carlos de la Torre, the master, Michael De La O, the director, and the one, the only, our film commissioner, Drew.
Drew Mayor Oaks. What's going on, Drew?
Our film commissioner.
I'm live from San Anto, the Alamo City.
There you go, San Antonio.
How's everything been treating you, man, with quarantine and all?
It's been a challenge, but I've been trying to stay busy.
That's good.
That's good.
You know, there's one thing that we've always known is that the community would be nothing without you, Drew.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it really wouldn't. You know, you brought us together. You know, you let me witness these guys, like, you know, shoot for the moon and, you know, do a great 2-day challenge last year. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do it this year. But, you know, I really do feel like you are the lighthouse that El Paso needs right now. So.
Oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I totally love my job, and I'm laid off now, but hopefully it's temporary because our organization is going to try to get back on their feet probably by September. So
yeah, and it looks like things are opening up, and you know, slowly but surely.
Yeah, we understand everything's been kind of at a standstill, especially in the city, and everything's been going crazy. But nevertheless, we wanted to have you on. We've been talking about this, I think, since we talked at Media Fest, Drew, where we were like, hey, we need to have you on the TowerCast. For those of you that don't know, Drew's like a big advocator, man. Like he's always on social media on everything, sharing our podcast episodes. So we thank Drew for always being active with Tower. He's always checking up on us, making sure we're good and sharing everything we're doing, and just like a good film commissioner should. He does, and more than that, I think Drew's just become a good friend of ours. He's definitely a true friend, a good friend of Towers, and we're always we get together every so often just to talk and get some ideas. In fact, we had a film that we were collaborating with Drew on that I hope still comes to fruition after all this craziness is over. It was a really special project that Drew had that he brought to Tower, which was really cool of him. I know he's worked with different companies around town and done different projects with like the board guys and stuff like that, which is really cool. He's always wanting to collaborate with the different companies and groups that are in town. So definitely we're already getting ready to shoot this short that Drew had written, and it's really cool and emotional piece. So I hope we still get to do that after this craziness, Drew.
yeah, I do too. It's actually a short that I made for a 48-hour in San Antonio about 10 years ago that it was literally a one-person production, and my actors improvised an entire 7-minute film.
Wow.
And so I always wanted to take what they had made and fine-tune the script, actually, you know, transcribe what they had, because we had no script.
Right.
But I wanted to transcribe it. And so I've got that transcription, and I've been improving the script, and Carlos has agreed to let you guys help me with it. So hopefully maybe this fall we can get that done. And it's a short. It's super short, and it's one location.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Super good. But before we jump into any of that, Drew, I think Juan definitely, if we can have some questions for you, just to look at the whole trajectory of your career in the film industry, and as a filmmaker and film commissioner alike. If you could, Juan, if you had anything for that.
Well, I mean, I can say this, that it's been quite the journey for the towering filmmakers as we begin our second season. Shout out to our Spotify listeners, our YouTube listeners, our Anchor listeners, YouTube. I hope you're enjoying the view. It's been nice to open up to the new wave of filmmakers that we have around the neck of the woods. And again, we wouldn't be here without our lighthouse, Drew Mayor Oaks. Drew, can you take us through your filmmaking journey? My question that I've been asking at the beginning of every podcast is, where did your hero's journey begin?
Well, you know, I started experimenting with film when I was in 5th grade. So that was in 1972.
5th grade.
Really?
If you can do the math.
You saw Star Wars in the theaters, what you're telling me.
Love it.
Exactly. I saw
Okay,
Star
cool.
Wars at the Fox Theater in Lubbock,
Awesome.
Texas.
That's
Best
awesome.
time to be alive for cinema.
I'll never
Best
forget.
time.
So I made it wasn't even a Super 8, it was regular 8,
Oh, wow.
which, as you guys know, is 16 millimeter film that runs through a cartridge, and then when they process it at the lab, they split it down the middle and give you 8 millimeter.
Sure.
And it was 15 minutes long, and I made it for school, and it was a blast. Exactly. I used a Keystone just like that with a turret mount lens and a wind up.
Trying to open it up.
Too cool.
Awesome.
And actually, one of my good friends in 5th grade is a guy named Steven Skybell, who is now a Broadway actor,
Wow.
and has been acting his entire career. And so that got me started. But the reason I was interested in film was my dad was a filmmaker. He was a professor of archaeology, and he would do summer digs in the 50s and 60s in Mexico and South America, and he would film like travelogue videos of. So we have Lima, Peru, and Quito, Ecuador, and Mexico City in the 50s, and then he would cut them together, and then he would present these silent 16 millimeter films in the wintertime to different groups like women's groups and museum groups, and it would supplement his income, and then he would narrate the films as they were playing.
Wow.
So we always had a 16 millimeter projector at the house, and Super 8 and regular 8. So I enjoyed working with film, and I worked with video when I was in high school, half-inch reel-to-reel, which was black and white, which was really a challenge because we couldn't edit it, so we had to shoot everything in order. And I decided to go to film school. I ended up at UT Austin, and that's where I got my undergraduate degree, and I graduated in '85. And some of my classmates, one of them is Dan Truly, who's an executive producer on Blue Bloods right now, and going into their 11th season. And
Wow.
I love that show.
and my good friend Gary Winnick, unfortunately he passed away a few years ago, but he directed 13 Going on 30 and Letters to Juliet and
No way.
and Charlotte's Web and
Really?
Tadpole and Bride Wars. So he had a really great career.
Wow.
It was way too short, but
Sure.
anyway, so film school in Austin was a blast. Also, Lee Daniels was in my class.
No way.
Of course, the DP for Dazed and Confused and Slacker.
Yeah.
And
Man, that's so cool. I just recently rewatched Slacker on Criterion. It's so great. I love Richard Linklater.
yeah,
So
I like
so
Rick
cool.
Linklater's work. Unfortunately, I did walk out of Slacker at the Dolby Theater in Austin because I just thought it was just unbearable. So
Oh,
It was too
No
long.
way.
it's not my type of film. It's not my
Too
type.
ahead of its time or something, huh?
That's a very tactful way to put it. But nevertheless, it got Austin going. It really changed the filmmaking scene in Austin. So I stayed in Austin and LA. I worked in LA for a few years and on some really horrible features and just a PA. And then moved back to Texas and I was working on a feature called Hard Promises with Sissy Spacek and Billy Peterson, and Rip Torn was also in it, and
Rip Torn, really.
trying to think who else. Some really great cast. Anyway, so that was the last film that I worked on that was a feature, and I started a job at the Texas Film Commission in 1991, and really loved working in the Film Commission because it allowed me to stay in Austin but be connected to the industry. And the films in Austin in the 90s, I mean, there were just some fantastic films. Worked on the Steve Martin film Leap of Faith. I worked on Powder with who's the guy that played young Indiana Jones? Sean Patrick Flannery. I
In the
worked
movie or in
on
the Young Adventures?
yeah,
The
he
Young
was in
Adventures.
Oh
yeah,
wow,
TV show.
cool.
And then I worked on Flesh and Bone, a bunch of TV movies. One of the real wonderful films I worked on was a TV movie directed by Bill Bixby, and I was his assistant on that film. And right before he passed away, it was really a pleasure working with Bill.
Bill Bixby.
So I worked on films and worked in film commissions, and I was in Houston Film Commission, did the same thing there, and spent some time in Dallas in the late 90s working at a post house and a film lab, and then I managed a desktop editing boutique facility in Austin.
Neat.
This was right when Avid was first coming out, and Final Cut wasn't even a thing back then. And we had a Media 100 shop, and that was really cool. We worked with a lot of high tech companies, and then the tech bubble burst, and all that business went away. And then I worked in commercial production, and then 9/11 happened, and that changed that again. And so I had to get a real job again. So I ended up becoming the director of the San Antonio Film Commission, and I spent 11 years there. And they changed the structure of the department, and I left in 2015, and fiddled around a while, and tried to pitch a couple of features, and didn't get anything made, but learned a lot, met a lot of great people,
Sure.
and ended up in Las Cruces. So I helped them kind of restructure Film Las Cruces back in 2017, and John Foley was my assistant, and he's now the director there, and moved to El Paso in the fall of 2017, and the rest is history.
Dang, that's got to be the best. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna top that hero's journey, dude.
Well, right before coming to the film commission, I think it's important to note that Susie was our film commissioner right before Drew, and they were kind of working together at the end of when Susie was retiring. Yeah. And Susie was really good to us too, man. Like when we first started in the industry, she was really good to us. She helped us with our feature, and there she is. There she is.
And I'd known Susie since like 91.
Really?
Wow.
She'd been in El Paso working since I think 75 or 76.
Wow. Yeah, she was really great, and we got invited to her retirement party, so I was there for that, and got to say thank you and all of that. But when Drew came in, I remember the first time we ever met Drew. The first time we ever met Drew, it always stuck with me. He came with Susie to the premiere of our feature film Depth of Field at Alamo Drafthouse. And I'll never forget what Drew said to us. It just always stuck with me, and I know it made an impression on Austin too. But we met him, and he was super nice, and I think at the time your official title was like the film coordinator, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, oh wow, he has a new film coordinator, really nice guy. When Susie said congratulations, and she kind of took off, and then Drew right behind her told us, you guys are 10 steps ahead of the rest of them, so congratulations on your feature. And that always just like, oh man, that's so, from somebody that's around film and knows people, and it just really, really struck a chord with us. And since that moment, we've known Drew.
Yeah, well, it's really hard to make a film, and it's really hard to make a feature film. And the fact that you did that out of the gate is amazing. Obviously, you do it differently now after what you've been through the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But I meant it, and I love you guys.
No, yeah, we love you too, Drew. Thank you for that. So I think it's, I don't know if you want to tell these stories, Drew, but you've told us some really cool stories, man. Like we've sat for meetings and had just coffee and just talked random things, or we've come to pitch you different ideas. And when in some of those meetings, you've told us stories about like when you met Kevin Smith and when you met, Robert Rodriguez and all the great filmmakers that you've crossed paths with. Don't be shy now. Tell us those stories.
Don't be humble, right?
You've told us some of those stories, and they've been really fun. So,
Kevin Smith, I enjoyed meeting him. I met him at the first screening of Clerks at Sundance.
Wow.
I met Kevin Smith before he was Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And then I went to the last screening of his film, and he had already become that Kevin Smith. He changed over the course of the week. He'll say that too. It
Beautiful,
changed his life.
Got real, smart.
But Clerks is one of my favorite films, and I'll never forget the one of the people at the first screening was Ben Stiller, and I had just worked with Ben on Reality Bites in Houston. And so I was able to chat a bit with Ben about Clerks, and of course he loved it. And I got to meet the whole crew, and
it's so trippy.
It was a real ball. And what was cool is that we kept in touch primarily with Scott Mosier. He and I kept in touch because at this point everybody knew that something else was going to happen. They were going to make another movie. And so we stayed in touch, and I guess it was about 8 months later, it wasn't long, we got a script for Mallrats.
Wow.
So Scott sent me, and they needed a giant mall. And of course, Houston we had 2 empty malls at that time. So this was in 94.
Yeah.
Yeah, spring of 94. And I read Mallrats, and it's the first script. I've read scripts since then like this, but it's the first script that I read that I laughed out loud as I was. And the film didn't quite come off as great as
unfortunately, and it's since become a classic.
I love that movie.
And for those of you that don't know, Kevin Smith is about to come out with Twilight of the Mallrats, which is the sequel, the direct sequel, with dealing with the kids of those characters that we love. So just very cool. It comes full circle for sure.
Yeah.
So anyways, you read Mallrats.
So read that. They came into Houston, and Scott and picked up Scott and Kevin at the airport. And of course, Kevin had his trademark, those pants that I don't know what length they are.
Is jorts?
They're they're just such a bizarre length.
Jean shorts is jorts.
And we scouted these malls, but we had to stop at comic book stores, and we had to stop at arcades along the way for him to hang out. So and then we had lunch at Champs, which is, I don't think there's any Champs around anymore. It's like Bob's Big Boy. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a southern Bob's Big Boy. Mm-hmm. And that was a real blast. And of course, they ended up shooting in Minnesota at the Mall of the Americas, which was 5 times the size of any mall I'd ever seen in my life. And but then fast forward to, I think, 97, and Kevin, I was in Austin, and Kevin was coming to South by, and I knew the director of the programs for all the panels, Brian Poiser, who's a filmmaker based in Austin right now. And he goes, "Hey, I'm doing a panel. It's about film school." I was like, "Okay, well, I went to film school." And he said, "Yeah, I know. So I want you to be on the panel." And then when I got there, it turns out Kevin Smith was on the panel, and it was about to go to film school or not to go to film school. And so Kevin Smith was the example of not going to film school, and I was the example of going to film school.
That's so crazy.
But we had a good panel, and he signed bought a copy of the Clerks script and the book. And he signed it, and he said, "Drew, there's nothing wrong with film school that you and I can't fix." So I'll always remember that. So,
it was so good. When we finished up Snowball Effect, Austin's film about Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier and the fictional story of how they could have come up with the idea for Clerks. We wrote the script and we made the film, and then Drew saw the film, and I remember I guess as soon as he saw it, he sent us pictures of him with Scott Mosier and with Kevin Smith, and sent us pictures of the autograph with that quote, what he just said, "There's nothing wrong with film school that you and I can't fix." And Austin and I were like, "Dude, look, it's Drew with Kevin Smith." We were freaking out. We're just freaking out, man. It's so cool. But he tells us stories like this all the time, man. It doesn't faze him. He hasn't gone Hollywood, man. Drew's like, "Yeah, they're cool, dude. It's all good." Yeah. It's so cool, man. So cool. Any other story you feel like maybe you want to tell?
Well, I also, when I was working at the Film Lab in Dallas, one of my clients was Steven Soderbergh and Rod Hardy.
Wow.
And that was back when he'd made The Limey and I think maybe one other, and he was making a film called The Underneath in Austin. And also he made 2 self-financed films back in Baton Rouge, where he's from. So he made Schizopolis. Have you ever seen Schizopolis? You guys should definitely check that out if you haven't seen it.
Schizopolis, okay.
And he wrote and starred in that. And then he made Grey's Anatomy. But he shot them both on Super 16, and we processed it up in Dallas.
Okay.
That's crazy.
So I got to meet him, and one of the things I said, hey, do you got any advice for filmmakers? And he said, yeah, actually I do. And this was after he'd made his 2 films with his own money. He said, never make a movie with your own money. Never make a movie with your own money.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, words of wisdom. Yeah.
Now, while we're on this topic, Drew, I told these guys when we were having kind of like our pre-meeting, I told them I was going to tell this story because it always makes me think of you. Which I know, Juan, you know, we're going to get into the 2-day and all that stuff later, but
we can talk about whatever, man.
No, for sure. No, but we definitely should. But kind of before getting into that, while we're on the topic of like filmmakers that we admire, that we've talked to and bumped into and stuff like that. So Drew, being the guy he is, you know, him and Carlos Corral, you know, the people at El Paso Film Festival were able to bring Robert Rodriguez. For those of you listening that were able to make it, it was a fantastic experience getting that experience to be able to see him live. He's one of our heroes, and he gave this masterclass of filmmaking, and it was really cool. But so we're sitting in the theater waiting for Robert to come out, and everybody's kind of chit-chatting, and all the filmmakers in El Paso made it out, which is really cool. And Drew comes up to us. This was after Tower won the 2-day challenge, right? Which is a big honor for us. And we're sitting in the rows, you know, waiting for Robert Rodriguez, and we're all excited. And Drew comes up to Austin and I, sitting in the chairs, and he's like, hey, so you guys won the 2-day challenge, and I want to introduce you to Robert Rodriguez. I'll be back in 5 minutes to get you. I'm going to go check in. We're like, what? Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So we're all excited, and we're like, okay, cool deal. And then we're like, what are we going to say? We got to be smart. We got to be short. He's probably busy, whatever. And then Drew comes back and he's like, hey, so, you know, Robert's getting his notes ready for the session, for the masterclass. It's probably not the best time to bring you guys back, but if you're going to the after party, you know, I'll introduce you guys there. I already talked to Robert, and, you know, he'll meet you guys there. And we're like, all right, yeah, sure. No problem. You know, we're going to get to meet him either way. We'll get to talk to him. And yeah, it kind of went that way. And then for some reason, Drew wasn't able to make it to the after party. So we're like, oh no, what do we do? Do we go up and introduce ourselves, or do we step back? So we ended up introducing ourselves and got to talk to him, and I got to take a picture with him. And the nicest guy, Robert Rodriguez, really cool guy, and really for the filmmaker. And we got to talk to him about Tower, and he was super impressed that we're the crazy dudes that did 20 short films in 1 year. And he was cool. He was a really nice guy. Him and his sons. His sons were by far the nicest celebrities kids I've ever known of, man. Like, they're super humble, super nice. They're both filmmakers. Really cool dudes. And I remember, it just always reminds me, because Drew, till this day, he'll be like, man, I should have just taken you guys backstage, man. I'm sorry. Like, I should have just done it, dude. I shouldn't have thought about it. Like, till this day, he like feels bad. And I'm like, no, Drew, we got to meet him. It's all good. We're good. You know, and he's like, I should have just taken you guys. I thought about it too much.
Yeah, I shouldn't have asked him. I should have just taken you back there. But anyway.
But it's one of those memories with Drew that I have. Like, every time we meet each other, he's like, guys, I should have just taken you, man. I shouldn't have asked.
Yeah, I feel bad about that.
No. I always tell Drew, like, don't even sweat it, dude. It's already, like, we got to meet him. That's what's important.
Yeah.
But,
well, and just to clarify, I didn't have anything to do with bringing him to the festival. That was Carlos all the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, that was really stroke of luck. And we were able to sponsor, we were able to help him. But that was really cool. I mean, and hopefully, they'll be bringing more people like that.
Hopefully.
That's why, one of the reasons I'm disappointed that I'm not working right now is that, those are things that we would be working on right now, because the festival, it may still happen for real in October. Might even happen in November or whatever, but
it's very possible.
they're going to want to bring people in. So.
Yeah, we need you. We need you in that talk, Drew. Even if it's a minor part, like we need you in those talks for anything having to do with film, because you're the guy, man. Like you're the one that knows how to deal with these people and permitting and making sure we do it the correct way. And that's what I love about you having your hand in everything that's going on film related. El Paso gives us as Tower a lot of confidence to produce stuff here, and you know, we really hope that gets ironed out, and for the film festivals too. But that was a really cool experience. And Drew, I'll always tell that part of Drew just because it makes me like, Drew has a heart of gold, man, and he's always looking out. He's always looking out for filmmakers, and not just Tower, but everybody who ever reached out to Drew for something. Drew has always been there, and I think that's super important to mention. Yeah,
you know, I
part of it.
I got a really sweet note from Jessica Mraz yesterday, and I told her that you know, that we were laid off and it's not working right now, and man, she was just so upset.
Drew, do you need us to start a movement?
Was one of the judges right for the 2-day? Drew, she was.
Wait a minute.
She was like a host or a judge or something like that. She was a judge,
and then she hosted it as well.
Oh, okay.
I love her reactions, man, because we talked about this in the You Know What's Funny episode of the TowerCast. But just to kind of reiterate, she was so cool when she hosted, man. Like when she announced that we won, I'll never forget her words. She was like, "I fought for this. I fought for this film." And I was like, "What?" Like it made such an impression on her. She's such a sweet girl. She loved it.
Yeah, and she's El Paso.
Yeah,
homegrown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have her on Instagram, and I saw she's been very active in the protesting in LA and Santa Monica and stuff. So she's out there working, you know, fighting the fight. So good for her.
Yeah,
definitely. But I don't know. I think it'd be cool if we talk about the 2-day. I think it was Drew, like I think you brought it because I know Susie was kind of gearing up to retire, and to our knowledge, to our generation at least, we'd never had an experience like that in El Paso.
Yeah, I pitched the idea to her, and she thought it was great. And the general director for Destination El Paso, Brian Crow, loved the idea as well. So what was important to me was that we created a community event that brought all of the different parts of the film community together: the indie filmmakers, the agency commercial people, corporate, digital photography, design, you know, everything.
Yeah.
And I had done, we had created a San Antonio 48-hour called the San Antonio 48-Hour Film Experience.
Nice.
In 2006, I think, was the first year, and it ran until 2015. And one of the things that was cool about it was it did bring the community together. Mm-hmm. And so in El Paso, we had this really awesome opportunity to do that and to screen the films at the Plaza Theater, which was a venue that our organization manages. So we were able, I mean, it was expensive, but we were able to do it. And that was so important to me, because seeing your film on a screen that size, you know,
it helps validate that accomplishment of being a filmmaker, right?
Yes,
exactly. And the screen does not lie, you know? So, and I think it's important for the community to see each other's work, and to see what is working in their work and what may not be working.
Right.
And, you know, we had a very small percentage of filmmakers that felt like, you know, oh, this is not for me. But the majority of the teams loved the experience, even if they didn't win anything, just because it was a challenge to them, and it was something that they felt benefited them, you know?
Yeah.
So, and so we did it the second year. We added more awards, which was some good feedback we had from the first one. And, you know, I'm really sad that we're not going to be able to do it this summer, but I always thought it would be something that we could do annually. And like I said, we added a reception this year, which helped to keep everybody, hanging around after the show to talk. So, and I think it really built a lot of synergy. You guys had already laid the groundwork, especially Tower and Board and some of the other groups that were already doing shorts prior to the 2-day challenge.
Yeah.
And I think what is amazing is that most people feel like, I can't do this. But every year for the past 2 years, we've had, 30 films each time. And like I said, it's amazing just to finish a film and get it done. And even if it's not fantastic, if it's done and it makes sense, then that's an accomplishment.
And I think that's one key thing to focus on, Drew, because you're absolutely right. This experience, especially for us, like, it was one cool accomplishment after another, because we started doing the first short, and then we did the first feature, and then we did the Tower 20. And as we were progressing, this opportunity came along, and to us, it meant the world, man. Like, just to be part of the experience, like you say, just to meet other filmmakers. I remember the first year, it was a huge bump up. The second year, I think the first year we did it at the Album Park little convention, little rec center, right? The little meetup. And then the second year we did it at
Power at the Pass,
which is a bigger venue and kind of had more teams. That room was filled up, man. And it was special for us to be able to talk to other filmmakers and go about that. But what was even more impressive is that most of the works, if not all of them, had some merit. They had something to show. Whereas we've heard of other filmmaker or other film 2-day challenges. Michael's been a part of some, like in Lubbock and Dallas, and he's kind of told us about his experiences. And most of the time, it's brand new filmmakers who've never done it. And naturally so, the films aren't up to par. But the El Paso films, all of them had something of merit. And I think that's really special. Like, you've been a part of a few 2-days, Drew, like in San Antonio, like you said, and stuff. And I don't know if you can vouch for that, or if in San Antonio maybe you saw something different or similar, but I think the quality of the films were actually pretty good for them being 2-day films.
Yeah, they were really amazing. I mean, especially the last year that we did it. I'm trying to remember. Can I bring up the? Can I dive off of here and go into my other screen somehow?
No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Should be right. You can put a pause on the quick. Yeah.
Let's see. I was just gonna pull up the.
Yeah, you should be. We can still see you and hear you, so you're good.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you're good.
All right. I was gonna pull up the. You can still
artwork
hear me okay? You like the artwork?
I do. Yeah. It's cool. Very cool.
I did that. That was me.
You did?
Oh,
wow.
That's awesome.
Dang.
That's
artist
awesome.
in every way.
I didn't know that either. Oh yeah, Drew knows how to do it all, man. Like, randomly he'll send me like what he's working on. Like, he was working on this new Star Wars thing, we'll talk about at the end. But he sends me like, "Hey man, yeah, I worked on it on Audition. It was easier than working on this software." And I'm like, "What? You know how to do sound design too?"
Well, yeah, I mean,
sound design in this thing is amazing, man.
Telluride.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got this up here. What I was going to say was I changed the format on the web page, and you guys are now in second place in terms of all-time views.
Oh wow!
Oh really?
Yeah, and Jehovah's Leave No Witnesses is number one.
Of course, man. We talked about that film.
Can't beat the Lord.
So,
we can do that. For those of you listening, make sure to also tune into the YouTube page where you can see what Drew is showing us. But he'll walk us through what he's.
So this is on Vimeo. So you can see Jehovah's Leave No Witnesses is number one in all-time views. You Know What's Funny is number 2. Way Out is number 3. I loved Way Out. I really.
Which one was Way Out?
That was the one with Stephanie.
That is Stephanie.
With Toth. Yeah, with Toth. I remember that one.
Stephanie.
That's right. That one did make an impression
Shout out
on
to
me.
Stephanie.
And
Shout out to Stephanie Toth.
Shout out Stephanie.
What a queen.
And then Knock 'Em Dead.
I remember that one.
Bravo, which was hilarious. I mean, these were all great films.
Yeah.
Next Anniversary.
Next Anniversary really struck a chord with me. That one, that was the other chick flick.
Yeah.
it really struck a chord with me. That one was good. That one was made really
These all
well.
look great.
It was beautifully made and well acted, nicely done.
You can tell the craft in all of them. They're all very like striking images too, like the thumbnails. So
Yeah, I picked.
there was some good vision.
He
behind
picked those. Yeah.
Hey,
That's
Memoirs
important.
of a Sinner.
The thumbnail is very important. Memoirs of a Sinner. That was the number 3 film.
That was the noir. That one was really interesting. Yep.
I've Been a Pepper was made by high schools.
I remember her. She was good. That actress, the girl, she was good.
Yeah, she was.
Kimball's Revenge was our Western.
nice.
Normal Guy. I don't remember that one. I can't see it. Oh, yeah, okay. And then...
Music of the box office. I like it.
Yeah, and then Open Case with... what's that guy's name? Is it
Manuel. His name is Manuel. Yeah, Manuel. He's a good actor. I worked with him on a UTEP film once. Yeah.
He's incredible. Anyway, it just goes on and on. I mean, look at all these great films.
Inbound Drift was with Truman. They were out of competition, but they were good too.
Yeah.
Good Evening El Paso was with Jessica when Robert O'Gane. That one was hilarious. That was terrific.
So, I mean, basically, we have really strong showing. So I'm gonna pause my share.
Yeah.
And then
That's awesome, man.
go back.
Come on back, Juan.
Come back, Juan.
Yeah, Drew. I think it's really important to note that these films were terrific and
Give me a second.
I don't know what I can you talk a little bit about the criteria as far as the rules and as far as the criteria for judging, who were the judges maybe? Can you talk about a little bit about that, how you guys decided to go about it?
Yeah, I basically started with the national 48-hour criteria, and then I adjusted it. And what I did was we weighted, let's see, so the use of the genre, the prop, and the dialogue, and then there's technical merit and storytelling. So, and we weighted it more heavily on technical merit and storytelling.
Sure.
Because I just, I think the prop, in fact, I think I talked to you about this, Carlos, a few months ago. I was thinking about just dropping
the prop and the
dialogue because I'm pretty sure that the reason that 48-hour movie challenges include that is because in the old days, back when I started shooting on mini DV, people literally would cheat and make the film ahead of time if they could, if they could. So they said, oh no, you got to have this thing, this prop or this line of dialogue.
I think you're right.
Film festivals back in like was that always like just kind of like a regular thing for filmmakers to indulge in, like 48-hour films, how long have those been around?
The first one I worked on was in '96.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and I think they started in '95, maybe '96, and that's when mini DV came out. And before mini DV, you couldn't edit a movie at home, basically.
Right.
You literally.
So was it a lot of digital entries, or was it through 16 millimeter? Like how does that?
No, it was all video.
Really? Mini DV video, mini DV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Canon
Just
XL1 and the VX1000 were the king cameras at that time.
As filmmaking got cheaper, that's when it gave.
That's when it became. That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and that also corresponded. So Final Cut Pro came out in late '98, maybe early '99. Premiere 5.0, which was, I don't know if you guys remember, but Premiere used to be storyboard based, which
really.
Can't edit a movie. I mean,
yeah.
Grade school kids can edit a movie on that, but I can't.
I think that whole thing, Drew, I think when you and I talked about it, I think I remember trying to talk you out of it just because I do think it adds it adds a challenge at the end of the day to the filmmaker on how to incorporate those things. I know, at least for us, the box of matches this year and the line of dialogue was like our punchline. Juan says it all the time. And it worked, and And the box of matches, yeah, that was kind of like we'll just throw it in when we can. But I do think it presents a challenge to the filmmaker to be creative on how to include these things. So I like it. I personally, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think what I was probably going to do this year, we were going to get rid of the, what is this? So there's a prop, dialogue. I think we're going to get rid of the prop.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, we did one year with the banana peel, and it just became like a joke.
Right.
We're trying to make a serious movie.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But so
that was the kind of the rules.
You've seen these challenges develop over time. I was gonna ask, like, what's one of your most cherished memories, like, because you do leave an impact on people, Drew. I remember. No, you do, like, and I know that, like, it's nice to know, because we live in an industry that fantasizes about stomping on each other and leaving each other in the dust, so to speak. But you know what I mean? But it's very welcoming to see somebody like you who has a good heart, and he's worked with all these like amazing filmmakers, people that we would consider teachers in our own right. But you're very like, nah, like, I just want to see people grow. My question to you was like, what's like your most cherished memory, like, of somebody that you kind of like, besides us, obviously, because I know changed Carlos's life,
Yeah.
Like, apart from that, like, was there something that you remember that you kind of always held, dear to your heart?
Well, my San Antonio experience was pretty fascinating, and we were kind of at the same place that El Paso is now, back in 2004, and so what happened in 2005, I think, or maybe it was 4, was Panasonic came out with the 24p DVX 150 or whatever it was called. Which basically, back before then, you guys don't remember, but you could shoot on interlaced video, but you had to use like a lens adapter to get 35 millimeter lenses on there, and it was like a major hassle. So with the advent of 24p and mini DV, you truly could buy a camera at Best Buy,
consumer price, and
make a 24 frame per second movie.
Really?
And so I was there so it's 2005. It was in the spring. And I got a call from a guy. He said, "Hey, I wanted to meet you. We made a little film." And I was like, "Oh, cool." I thought it was a short, probably. And he said, "Yeah, it's screening at the school at San Antonio College, and we'd love for you to come by." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll come." So my daughter and I went, and we got to it was in McAllister Auditorium, which I had never been to. And I thought, oh, it's like a biology laboratory, or like a classroom or something.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what this is? Turns out it was like a 2,000 seat theater, and the place was full, and there was like a conjunto band out there, and the radio stations, and it was all the Spanish language radio stations were there. And so this movie was a little movie that this young kid made. He was 23 years old. He made it on video.
Wow.
And it was called The Tragedy of Macario. Have you ever seen that, Carlos? I think
the original Macario from Mexico. Sure.
This was a different take. He took an incident in South Texas where some immigrants were killed in a truck trailer. And they couldn't.
The one that caught on fire.
Yeah. So we were at this theater with like 2,000 people, and this little movie starts playing, and it's just incredible. It's just a fantastic movie.
Right.
74 minutes long, so it's just barely a feature.
Right.
And everybody in the audience is just crying their eyes out, because it's a tragedy. And so we had lunch later in the week, and I said, this film is really powerful. You've made something that touched a lot of people, and you should submit it to Sundance Film Festival. You should just submit it. Just give it a shot, because it's a little tiny film. It's an immigrant story. You're 23 years old. You made it for like $700, whatever it was. And so he did. He didn't know what Sundance was, but he did. He sent it in, and he called me Thanksgiving of 2006, and he said, well, they invited me to Sundance.
Wow.
So his first film premiered at Sundance in 2006.
Wow. And who was the filmmaker's name, Drew?
The filmmaker is Pablo Veliz.
Pablo
I'll
Veliz.
have to look him up, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
Well,
he's
you know
made-
what's interesting about that time is I remember seeing a documentary called Side by Side, and it's all about the transformation from celluloid to digital film. And one of the things that the director of Sundance was saying was that before video cameras, consumer-based video cameras to be specific, they had maybe 50 submissions to Sundance every year, maybe. After video, they had over 300 the year that video cameras came out.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting that just more filmmakers were motivated to make a quality film once video made that possible, the money and stuff like that to be able to shoot on those things.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that this filmmaker, Texas-based, was able to pull that off. He was part of that conversation. He was part of that race.
Yeah.
So
that was
really
that
cool.
was the very beginning of all that. And well, it like I said, it was mainly because of the technology, and that allowed people to make. I mean, you guys couldn't be doing what you're doing if we didn't have that.
We all have a camera in our pocket. In fact, the thing I'm on right now is an app for phones.
Yeah.
And then, now you can talk about your second favorite, which is meeting Tower and working with them and doing.
That was just amazing.
No, but that's great. That's great, Drew. I mean, I think your walks of life as being involved in the film industry the way you've been is fascinating to us. Did you have anything else, Juan, in terms of that for Drew?
I mean, I think it's really cool, man, that you've your heart, like, it's just so like comforting to know that you're the one in charge. Like, it really is, man. It really is, because like, it just is. Like, we wouldn't. I've always, like, of course, there's gonna be good and bad anywhere, but it's all about, like, knowing that we're all in this together and that we all have the same dream, we all share the same ambitions, and we all just want to see a good story. And you're right, the screen doesn't lie. So like, I've only been here for now a year, I guess, but like, one of the things that really like cemented me here was that 2-day challenge, and was seeing not just Tower make this beautiful movie just in the span of 2 days, but also these other filmmakers, and just everybody was there, man. And I
want to take a little bit
being there, like, you end up formulating more friendships that blossom into more projects, and you know what I mean? This is how it is. Like,
I wanna take a little bit of advantage, Drew, just because we were talking about kind of the judging criteria and some of the stuff you guys use. I know that it must be super fascinating to work with filmmakers like Jessica Mraz, who's made a career in LA, respectively so. She's been in shows like Supergirl and Criminal Minds and stuff like that. And it's really cool, but also you've worked and brought filmmakers and encouraged filmmakers like Lucky McGee, who's a very fantastic filmmaker who a lot of people don't know about, but he's a terrific filmmaker, Texas-based, and he lives in El Paso now. He's making his films here. Him and his team have a post house, and I know that they're always involved in either the Plaza Classic Film Festival or in the 48. They always kind of, I know they're always involved. How is it working with filmmakers like that are now in El Paso,
Well, those guys have a really interesting business model, because they wanted to. It's Lucky and Zach Passero primarily, and they wanted to raise their families and be in El Paso, and so post-production is how they were able to find a way to do it, because they end up doing post on projects that may or may not have been filmed in El Paso.
Right.
And they also they worked on the documentary The Pushback, which was supposed to premiere at South by this year. And so that was like a local thing that they worked on. But other stuff that I've seen when I've been over there, they're working on is shot elsewhere. And Lucky's last big project, I think, was shot in Austin. So they've found a niche that allows them to operate and stay in El Paso, and I think that's really important. And post-production is cool because it's the type of business that is much more, it's more easily understood by like people on the city council and economic development department, because you have an office and you have, okay, here's our studio and here's our editing bay, and here's, I have employees, and I not have a bunch of employees, but I have a payroll, and I have a building that I pay a mortgage on or I lease.
Yeah.
So it's because the film industry is so unusual in that, productions come together and it's like a machine and a factory. And then when it's done, it all it doesn't actually disappear, but it feels like it disappears,
Sure.
because people may have gone up and work on another project. So post-production, I think, is going to be an important part of the landscape in the future for El Paso. And one of the things that I was working on, and I hope to continue to work on, is to try to convince the State Film Commission to make some revisions to our incentive program that would allow post-production to be incentivized separate from production. Right now, if you make a movie, $1 million film, and you do post-production in Texas, you can claim expenses from the production and expenses from the post to get a rebate.
I know that in the past, like El Paso has a very rich history in terms of like films that have been made here. Like I know Chuck Norris has made a movie here, obviously Sicario, Due Date, Paris, Texas. I love that movie to death. Like we've seen them. That's part of the reason why I stayed, because like a lot of the times, like even just driving past Juarez, I'm always just like Sicario. Like it's like those little little things that like it's like a little LA, and that's why I really like. I think that people are aware that there is this sense of Hollywoodness that's here for some reason. You talk a lot about the changing up, like you're an advocate, you're fighting for us. And I think that a lot of filmmakers don't understand the weight of that, because whatever it is that you're trying to do, and I know we will accomplish it whenever it will happen, who knows, but the day it will, I know that it's going to open up a lot of doors for us. And again, we have to.
A lot of people don't understand too, Juan. I'm going to piggyback off what you're saying. Before Drew was our film commissioner, we went to the city. A lot of us filmmakers kind of got together and went to the city and said, hey, our tax incentives aren't doing it for filmmakers here. We actually did go to various city council meetings, actually. Austin and I went with some of the guys from Double Scope, some of the guys from Board, some of the other, different filmmaking groups or companies. And we talked to the city about this filmmaking incentive thing. But when Drew came in, he saw the model. He saw the model of doing post-production here, which I think is something that people didn't pay attention to. And that's what he's fighting for now. But this fight for the film incentives in our city really has been going on for some time, not just our city, but the state, right? For some time, especially just because we're losing so much business to New Mexico for those reasons.
Places up there.
And I think Drew really, Drew randomly, what's cool about Drew, man, is he reaches out to the filmmaker to make sure he's making the right move. He'll text me. I don't know how many other people, but he'll definitely text me and say, "Hey, man, we're thinking about this post house. Maybe it'd be cool to have a post house here in town. That what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think you guys would benefit from it?" Just randomly, like, "Hey, man, I'm thinking of doing this. Do you guys think it's a good idea?" We're like some feedback. We're definitely work for feedback for Drew, and he's checking in on the filmmaker, and I think that's so awesome, man. I think that's super important.
Yeah, well, and the incentive is something that is a real challenge for us in the state, because and if you looked at Movie Maker's list of the top cities to be a filmmaker, I don't know, that came out like 2 months ago, I guess, and Albuquerque is on there, and Albuquerque doesn't have a film school, doesn't really have anything.
Right.
But they have a great incentive in the state. And so you get this trickle down effect
Right.
You get big productions and TV shows coming in, which is fine.
Bad,
It's like below the line crew and everybody's working.
right.
But the trickle down is that it also promotes indie filmmaking because people can work on a TV show and then they're off for 3 months and then they can work on their own projects. So I think that's one of the parts of our Texas incentive that we want to make sure that our lawmakers understand, that not only does it bring production into the state and just dollars. I mean, it's literally like just bringing a cash factory into the state.
Right.
Yeah.
It's jobs. It's people's jobs that you're essentially helping.
Jobs, exactly. And
The economy all in itself. Yeah. And then we've been advocating for that for sure.
but it also will provide trickle down so that more independent films can be made and more local content can be made. And I tell people it's simple. They're like, oh, we don't want to give money to Hollywood. Well, we're not giving money to Hollywood.
You're giving money to your state, to your
We're
city.
giving money to our state. And it's like, if you have let's say you have a convenience store, what do you have on your shelves? Right? You have groceries, chips, dip, Cokes. Well, you have to buy that stuff. You mark it up, you sell it. It's basic business 101.
Yep.
So you can't open a store that has empty shelves. And so what our state incentive does is it basically just provides the stock, the initial stock, and then the money just goes around and around and around.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're kind of gearing up to a close here, Drew. But before we're getting to that, I'm going to take advantage. I'm sorry. I want to take advantage but for those of you who don't know who are listening or watching behind the scenes, I tried to get Drew on the You Know What's Funny episode just because he was such an important element for that film, and we couldn't. Just the timing didn't allow. Our schedules weren't lining up. But I'm going to take advantage now because I told a story on that episode, Drew. I'm not sure if you heard it. But that story was the fact that I got a text message from you when the films were being judged. And I just want to hear your side of the story.
You're not supposed to tell people about that.
Well, it's been how long?
So I watched the movie and I immediately texted Carlos and I said, you hit it out of the ballpark on that one. I think that's what I said.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think you said something like that. But what I made it clear that
I wasn't a judge. So.
That you weren't a judge, exactly. That you weren't a judge. You were just kind of in the room while everything was happening.
But that gave us hope for sure.
No, believe me. In the podcast, I was like, no, Drew wasn't a judge. He wasn't like biased or anything. But it was just so special, man, to receive a text message. I know that helped us. Like we were a little nervous, and we were like, oh man, what's gonna happen? Especially Castro, the main actor, right? He's here. And there's just that text message. I remember just showing it to the crew and was like, guys, check this out. We did something right. It went well. And till this day, man, that film means the world to me as a writer director. And I know for Tower it was a huge accomplishment. And you were definitely a part of that, if you didn't bring the 2-day challenge to El Paso, we would have never seen the potential we could reach, and there was a huge moment for us to be able to reach that through, It's Funny. I don't know if you have anything to say about that film or any other film that, I know you got to see the tram as well for the first 2-day challenge and that type of thing, but.
The thing is the film just worked and your actors, and that's something that obviously successful filmmakers know how to cast films. And when you cast the film properly, it's half the battle. I mean, it really is. And John, you know how hard it is to be responsible for making a film work. But
exactly, the face of the film.
Yeah, but you and Valerie made it work. I mean, the entire cast and all four of
everybody.
The main group. With Jesse and I can't remember the other young lady's name, but it just worked.
Ashley,
yeah.
Well, Drew, we know that you're doing a lot of good stuff for the city and for filmmakers, and I would say you're the president of filmmaking here.
Very good.
I'd call you the king because I wanted to be forever.
Yeah, we gotta get him a shirt for that.
Dude, honestly, I'll put vote for Drew. I'll get it.
Yeah,
let's get it.
But one of the things that we were going to talk about was you had this Star Wars project, and I'm very interested about that.
Oh yeah, well I I've always loved Star Wars. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I am becoming more of a fan.
I'm with you.
And
I'm a huge fan.
and
I'm starting.
I saw Kenobi, which is Jamie Costa's fan film.
The
You've all
short
seen
film. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
It's amazing.
I love Kenobi. He's my favorite like character for sure.
And so I thought, well, I would love to. One, I thought, well, I would love to promote El Paso as a great place to make Tatooine-based Star Wars.
Yes.
And we could even do Endor go to Cloudcroft or
That's
something.
true. That's very.
But so I watched a lot of fan films, and I came up with an idea because I couldn't make a film, so I'm making an audio fan story. So it's basically a radio play. It's called The Listener. And
I have the clip here ready to play, Drew. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
let me set it up for you a little bit. So
That's cool, Drew. I mean, that's cool that you're, because I mean, we all know you as the film commissioner, but it's always, just from hearing your backstory and your come up and the people you work with, like one thing that of course, like we all want to see the things you make as well. So, thank you for sharing, man.
The Listener.
Audio fan story of Star Wars.
Yeah, so this is the story of a young teenager girl who lives on Tatooine. Her parents are moisture farmers.
Nice.
And she's in a wheelchair, and she has this antique shortwave radio that she listens to all the time. And she intercepts something.
Awesome. There we go.
I love it.
Here we go. This is Drew's The Listener teaser, an audio fan story of Star Wars, and it's currently on SoundCloud. I'm sure he's going to be sharing it elsewhere, but you're hearing it here really for the first time. So check it out, The Listener.
Bring me the girl and destroy this listening device. You know how dangerous the desert is.
She needs my help. I think she's a princess.
I can't have you listening to that antique all day.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. She's looking for old Ben Kenobi.
The Jedi are just a myth.
I know someone who can help.
Well now, let's find out what you know.
Tell me that this man is not
my
talented in
goodness.
storytelling.
Oh my
Tell me that
goodness.
our film commissioner, Drew Oaks, is not talented in
Man, Drew, that's actually really awesome. Like
That's not from the film? Damn.
You're telling
Oh my
us,
God.
like,
That's a teaser. It's just a teaser.
That's cool.
Damn.
For those of you
make sure
who
Make
for
sure
those
to
of you
check that
listening on
out.
audio,
I think Drew, when we share this episode, we'll definitely put it in the links in YouTube, the SoundCloud and stuff like that, so more people can check it out.
No,
Drew,
we
for
definitely
sure.
will. But Drew, this is awesome. I love that. It's like it's the character intercepting the transmission that Luke got.
oh my goodness.
That's actually really cool, man.
For those who are listening and not watching the video portion, I have goosebumps. I don't know how to show that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Drew, that was so cool.
Yeah, I did that entire thing on 19 tracks of Audacity.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Audacity?
Never again.
My goodness, I was thinking like
Not Audition. Audacity.
It's a little. It needs an update.
Yeah,
hey, you get what you
I
pay
love
for.
Audacity, man. Like I think it's so much easier to use.
but it's just hard to have that many tracks going.
Was that the film you wanted to make originally? The short film?
No,
Really?
no,
No, this was a brand new idea.
yeah.
Really, man.
Yeah. It works
Short film is
so
still
well for
something we
audio.
definitely want to be involved in. We've talked to Drew about that, and
Well, if you ever want to talk Star Wars, man, I'm definitely your guy. That's awesome, man. Like,
I know. I felt like I was hearing the next movie. It was fucking,
That's fantastic.
I was actually gonna suggest, dude. Like, there's actually this really good podcast. Like, it's a radio series. It's called Blockbuster. I know I've sent it to Carlos before, but
Yeah, we've told Drew
it's
about
telling.
it.
It's like the come up story of Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and John Williams, and this the way the production is with its audio and sound effects. I think you'd really enjoy it if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Check it
I'll
out.
check that out.
It's really good. It's called Podcast or Blockbuster. I mean,
Blockbuster podcast. They're gearing up to do their
Blockbuster.
second season. Actually, they just did one, and they're kind of like crowdfunding to be able to get their second one out. But yeah, it's definitely professional on this one. Like I told you, Drew, when you first sent it to me a few weeks ago. Like I told you, it was amazing, man. And
well, I used music from Rogue One and from
Rogue One has a
Star
beautiful
Wars
score.
and
Yeah.
beautiful. But yeah, check it out for everybody that's listening out there. We'll make sure to post the SoundCloud link here in the YouTube description and in the Spotify description.
Oh man, there's there's some stuff that we wanted to ask, but real quick, just because like I never got a chance to figure like you out in terms of like what you like, but real quick, like who are your like top 5 like directors like?
Or top direct.
well, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so Steven Spielberg, Soderbergh, Kevin Smith, French filmmakers, Truffaut, Godard, and English filmmakers, Australian filmmakers. I love everything by Peter Weir, Bruce Beresford,
Awesome.
and Adrian Lyne. Guys, he did Flashdance and Alita, and
Really?
and I, Star Wars and Star Trek, of course. Star Trek's one of my favorite series.
So are you more of a Trekkie?
I was
or
about
are
to
you
ask that.
Star Wars? Are you Star Wars or are you Trek?
They're so
You can't
different.
compare 'em.
They are different. They are
Yeah.
different, but that's
They're
always
so-
a discussion, right?
Yeah, they're so different.
I like that Simon Pegg actually came in to the Star Trek series and he's writing for
I
the
love it.
Star Trek series. I think he's fantastic.
I love
He's
him.
super smart
Well,
to be
that's-
Which
bringing.
one's your favorite?
That's the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of the Kelvin timeline or not?
No,
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I enjoy the films, but I'm not a fan.
I love
Right.
1 and I think I love 3, but 2 I can like skip. Like
Great music.
they're
I love-
really good.
I love the
music, man.
soundtracks.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, very iconic. Yeah.
Awesome.
What would you say like made you want to do like a radio show? Because that's like actually like I've always loved radio dramas. Like I've listened to a couple like Lone Ranger and like obviously like the Green Hornet. Like did you grow up with those?
Yeah, there was a thing in the 70s called the CBS Mystery Theater.
Yeah.
And it was on radio every week, and I really enjoyed listening to that. And then I used to make radio dramas with my cassette recorder when I was like 10 years old, and I would do all the voices, and they were really horrible, but I always enjoyed that. And I've always enjoyed audio editing. In college, I did post audio on a couple of graduate thesis films, and I've won audio awards with 2 of my 48-hour films.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
I really enjoy audio editing. Yeah.
From a guy who like comes from Modesto, like George Lucas' home place, like dude, I love Star Wars. Like George Lucas is like my can't say he's my favorite director of all time, but like he's definitely somebody who like I
A
admire.
hero of yours.
You know, especially like his college films, and then THX, American Graffiti. His love for Kurosawa, how he like blended samurai with space dramas, and similar to you, man. Yeah, he grew up with those radio dramas. He grew up with Flash Gordon. He grew up with serials. So,
Yeah, and I watched a lot of TV as a kid. So
yeah.
We all did.
yeah, but I watched
cable guy.
movies and mainly movies and Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello.
Lauren Hardy. Yeah.
And I'm not a huge Lucas fan, but Raiders of the Lost Ark is on my top 10 list, and of course that whole series. And Spielberg, I had a chance to see Spielberg's first film, Amblin. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen it.
Yes, that's why his company's named Amblin. Yeah.
And it's just
The
amazing.
Western, yeah.
Yeah, there's no dialogue in the entire film. And
Yeah, that's the film that broke him into the industry, really. He started working for studios after that. And Amblin, if I'm not mistaken, was a TV movie.
No, it was just, he just made it as a short.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
The TV
35
movie was
millimeter.
the truck one, like Maxim, some I don't remember.
The truck was dual.
Duel, yeah, that's what it was.
Duel.
I'm thinking about the Stephen King one. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, great filmmaker. I've always wanted to meet Spielberg, and I haven't. I have had a chance to meet some of my other favorites, like Beresford and Peter Ware and Adrian Lyne.
It's awesome.
And of course Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez and Soderbergh, but haven't met Spielberg yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
One day we'll get there, Drew. We'll get to meet all of our heroes, and we're gonna bring you along for the ride because that's what we want at Towers, to have conversations with these guys.
When does this radio drama come out?
It comes out later.
Later. Okay. So no definitive date yet. Okay.
Just stay tuned.
I haven't recorded the first episode yet.
Oh,
so,
really? Drew.
The cast for the teaser, they loved it so much that they're on board, and I'm going to ask some of my friends in LA and New York to participate as well. So
That's awesome.
So cool.
Beautiful.
All right, Drew, we're gonna put you on the spot. We're gonna test your film brain. We give you the good word of the day from see if you could guess it.
okay.
So, for those who don't know, we do a word of the day at the end of every episode to expand everybody's knowledge, make us better communicators, make us better filmmakers. The word of the day that I need you to guess. Do you know the meaning of the word arret?
He loves French.
Can you
Rep?
spell it?
Wait, let me get the actual spelling so I don't mess it up. Arret.
With a little thing on top of the.
French word.
It's a French word.
I'm not familiar with that word.
It's
Ooh,
a
we got
French filmmaking term. It's a classic filmmaking term during the silent era, and it stands for stop or halt in French. And the idea is that an arret camera trick was when you would have the film go through the camera in like silent era movies, and then you would stop it and leave the actors where they were and put in an object and then continue the track to make it look like the object magically appeared into the scene. And it was a very common technique used during the silent movie era to like make their special effects like during. But that process of inserting objects and making them randomly appear is known as arret.
Arret.
The first
Very
magic
good.
trick of the cinematic age. That's cool.
Very fantastic.
I love that.
Word of the day.
Part of the mise en scène.
Mise en scène. Oh yeah. All right, Mr. Juan, that was fantastic talking to you, Drew. I think you offer something amazing to every filmmaker here in El Paso and everywhere you go. I know right now you're currently in San Antonio and connecting out there, but we love you, man. You're truly a friend of Towers and truly a friend of all of us filmmakers here in El Paso, and we appreciate you, everything you've done for us, and we love you, man. What else can we say?
Yep.
Same here, right back at you. You guys just keep on doing it. I love the podcast, and the first one that came out, it was like 49 minutes, and I asked Carlos, I was like, why is it so long? But I'm hooked. I'm now hooked.
Yeah.
You can go for 2 hours.
Is there anything you'd like to? Is there anything like a little beacon of hope you'd like to give filmmakers who maybe feel like this coronavirus may have like thwarted their hustle a bit? Any words of encouragement?
Well, Hollywood's not going to stop. Unfortunately, theaters may be slowed down, but I think our culture is embracing storytelling like never before, and so I think it's something that is a very positive change, and I also think that you guys, because you're from El Paso or wherever you're from originally, you have a unique perspective that Hollywood wants to hear more of. And that's one of the things that I think is exciting about the films that you guys do, because they're stories from your heart that reflect your culture and how you were brought up and the things that you believe in. And there's power in that. So keep doing that.
I'm glad we have that recorded. That was nice.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
A round of applause for Drew, everybody.
Thank you so much. Love you, man.
Look at him. Thank you, Drew, so much. Well, yeah. I mean, anything else?
Take us out, brother. Oh, UTEP. So he's always repping El Paso. He's in San Antonio right now, repping El Paso. And congratulations to your daughter, Drew, because I know you told me she just got accepted into UTEP. She's going to be going there in the fall.
Nice.
And she also graduated this past week, so congratulations to her.
Through high school, going to become a minor.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right. Welcome her in.
Thank you, guys.